Schools all over the state are wrapping up their first semesters. For many, Arizona's new curriculum regimen, known as College and Career Ready Standards, have been a critical element of instruction.
We want to keep our kids globally competitive, and we have to raise the rigor. We have to change. The world has changed. The world we live in has changed. The walls that are been pushed out. So we have to really say, how do we give those experiences to our kids?
I'm on the internet a lot, trying to refresh my memory and then trying to sort of learn the way that they're now teaching, which is very different.
The method, once referred to as Common Core, is used in 47 states, including Arizona. The goal is to challenge children in such a way that they become deep, critical thinkers. It's a new approach to teaching and learning. This is Arizona Week. Adopted in 2010 as one of the governor's 4 pillars of educational reform, College and Career Ready Standards is a new approach. To explain it, I'm joined by University of Arizona professors Courtney Koestler and Mathew Felton. Now, the two of you wrote a book titled The Process, Standards, and CCSSM Practices. What this book really does is challenge or change the fundamental way that children are learning, but that means you are teaching the teachers differently. Is that correct?
I would say for a lot of teachers and students, that's true that it's different from how they learned math in the past, but it builds on a pretty big body of work that existed before. The new standards build on a pretty big body of work that has existed for really decades now. So I wouldn't say that how I'm preparing teachers is that much different than what I was doing before. We're focusing a lot on what it means to teach for understanding, and that's what the Common Core is advocating.
And Courtney, you're finding that this is somewhat challenging for teachers. They may have thought they were doing things correctly, and they were, but now they're doing it according to different standards. Can you talk a little bit about what you learned through this book?
Well, so the standards, like Matt said, they're very similar to what the National Council of Teachers of Mathematics has been advocating for the past few decades. But it is very different for Arizona teachers because the Arizona standards had a long ways to go to align with the NCTM standards. So now with the Common Core standards, which you referred to as Arizona's College and Career Readiness standards, so they're the same basic idea. It's just Arizona has a different name for the Common Core standards. So it is different for teachers. They have different kinds of expectations of what they need to be teaching their students, different kinds of practices and processes they need to bring in the classroom.
One of the things this refers to is creating analytical thinkers. What does that mean when we talk about K through 12 grades? Can you describe a little bit about what that is?
Sure. So a traditional way to teach mathematics might have been to show kids how to solve a problem and let them practice that over and over again. What the Common Core advocates, what NCTM advocated before that, is giving students genuine problems that they haven't been told how to solve before, and they figure out their own strategies. They might have to deal with real-world problems and figure out how mathematics applies to those situations. So they have to do a lot more of the thinking so that when they're confronted with genuine problems in the future, they're able to figure out strategies and work flexibly with mathematics.
And Courtney, go ahead and add to that.
Which is sometimes scary for teachers because it's sometimes you feel more in control when you're the one showing the mathematics and having kids mimic it or practice it over and over. But the Common Core really asks students to be the problem solvers, to be doing the intellectual work of doing mathematics.
In your research through this book, what is it really telling you about the mindset of teachers and students at this point?
Well, I would say the book, we didn't necessarily research the mindset of teachers and students, but we know from a lot of work that, as Courtney said, that's really unfamiliar for many teachers and many students. Some teachers have been doing this kind of teaching for a long time, but for many it's unfamiliar. You need to know a lot more mathematics if you're going to let kids develop their own strategies and then orchestrate a conversation around that. Then you have to know a lot more mathematics, and that's challenging, especially if you were taught in a really traditional way. So those are challenges the field has been grappling with for quite a while about how do we prepare teachers to do this, and when teachers are out in the classroom, how do we really provide them the support that they need? So, time for them to plan together, to learn about how to teach mathematics in this way, to develop their own mathematical knowledge. So those are all important things the field has been grappling with, and hopefully these new standards will provide more motivation for schools and districts to provide the funding and states to provide the funding to do that kind of work.
Courtney, would you agree with that?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of different kinds of projects that teachers are getting involved with that really support their professional development around the Common Core standards. So I think in Arizona, or at least in the Tucson area, it's definitely been a great support for a lot of teachers.
And do you think these standards are headed in the right direction? Is there still more work to be done?
I think there's always more work to be done. I think that it was a very quick process in which they were developed. So I think that hopefully over the next couple years there'll be a look at how they're being implemented and maybe some revisions of some of the content that's in the standards. But I think it's definitely headed in the right direction, especially for states like Arizona that didn't necessarily have state standards that provided a lot of guidance for teachers in developing math thinkers in their classrooms.
Matthew, do you think this was a long time coming? Are there changes that could be made moving forward?
I would agree with most of what Courtney said. I think there's some details of the specifics of the content that maybe should be shifted or adjusted or better reflect research, but overall it's in the right general direction. Like I said before, it really builds pretty heavily on a lot of the ideas that have come before it, especially the prior set of recommendations out of NCTM. So hopefully that will continue to happen. My other, I guess, a big concern that a lot of people have that I share is the rollout of the testing that's going on with it. The tests are very high stakes, and it's happening very early when teachers are still just learning how to do these standards and what's in them and how to implement them. So I think that that's probably counterproductive at this point.
That would be one of the examples that you think maybe there needs to be that change.
Yeah, there needs to be some adjustments to the testing, but also just the general climate around education on focusing so much on testing as the sole way to evaluate teachers. And to do that in the context of a whole new set of standards isn't the kind of thing that encourages a lot of growth and change in teachers. It's a very constraining context for them to be working in.
Okay. Authors and professors here at the University of Arizona, Dr. Courtney Koestler and Dr. Mathew Felton, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The Arizona College and Career Ready Standards includes a new test that will replace the AIMS test by 2015. Here with me are two representatives from the Sunnyside Unified School District, Pam Betten, the Director of Middle Schools and One-to-One Computing, and also Maggie Hackett, the Director of Curriculum. Ladies, thank you so much for being here. Pam, let's start with you. The Sunnyside District is currently teaching teachers according to these new standards.
Correct.
Talk a little bit about what that looks like. Is it different?
It is different. It's wildly different. It's really moving from just kind of the past practice of learning to figure out what kids know to moving to what kids know and what are they able to do. So that shift in instruction requires a shift in the way that we teach, in the way that we assess, in the way that we communicate those results to parents.
And Maggie, you're one of the boots on the ground who's there working with the teachers, helping them get comfortable with the idea. How are they receiving these standards?
At first, there's a little bit of pushback because change is hard, but as their understanding gets a little bit more in depth and they start implementing it with the students and they start seeing the things that the students really are capable of, they become converts and they get excited about teaching again.
And how you get to that point is through professional development. Pam, if you would describe to us, it costs money, it costs time. How is the district handling it?
You know, those are two big factors, and you're talking about teachers K-12. You know, oftentimes it's a small group, it's just English teachers or it's just math teachers. This is a large group of teachers, it's a large shift, and not to leave out also administrators, making sure our administrators are on board. So part of what Arizona Department of Ed did that we were part of as well was phase 1 trainings, which were sort of those initial, here are the new standards, this is how it's going to work. From there, we've adapted and done a lot of more teacher-directed, more instructionally relevant, looking at the sample assessment item types. How does that affect instruction? We use collaboration. We have an early release time on Wednesdays where our teachers are able to come together in small collaborative groups. We've done a lot through the work. So as we've developed curriculum units, we've had those conversations. So the embedded PD is through the work, the questions, the determining what are the resources that we need. How do our coaches, our on-site coaches, help affect that PD move for our teachers?
And do you feel like that is sufficient for the teachers? Is that what they're telling you?
It is, of course, we always want more. The more we know, the more comfortable we feel with it. So there are other opportunities. We try and send teachers to the trainings that the county is offering. Some sites have after-school book studies where they're trying to get more into the standards and what that means. So there are other ways to get through it, but at the very least, I think that we have a firm foundation.
And Maggie, your experience is unique because you get to go into the classrooms, you get to monitor the teachers, and then you get to see the students, and maybe sometimes that light bulb go off in their heads. Describe some of those experiences about, there is a level of excitement for these children.
There is. I was in a third grade classroom not too long ago, and they were focusing on multiplication, but through the strategy they were using, they were actually having to apply some of the addition strategies. And I was a big nerd and got excited when I heard them use the terminology that I knew their second grade teachers had used with them. And so to see that become embedded and then apply to a higher level thinking, it was very exciting. And the third grade teacher was just kind of like, wow, I've never had a student do this before.
And it works?
Yes.
And Pam, for you, from your perspective, when you're trying to communicate this change to teachers, like Maggie said, there is some resistance, but they are getting it. It's challenging their way of thinking.
Absolutely. And you know, the No Child Left Behind change in education really had teachers develop as teachers in a different way. So we see a difference in teachers whose training came from 20 years ago, you know, where there was a lot of thematic instruction, to teachers who just came through the No Child Left Behind, where it was more of a focus on fidelity to a program and towards a direction. So there are some differences, even in moving teachers forward, you know, along this line. And administrators the same. You know, that's a piece that's often left out, but the rigor that's involved with these standards and the assessments that will requires administrators not to be bystanders, but to truly have a deep understanding of what the standards are asking students to know and be able to do as well.
And to be fair, it's not well received by everyone.
That's true.
Tell me a little bit about what you've heard from that perspective.
You know, we're fortunate in our district that our parents have been very supportive of it so far. We've begun moving our elementary school report card along those same lines and trying to communicate what those differences will be. But there's a faction of people who are worried about it, who are concerned about it. Is it too much government? Is it too much of a national piece? For me, I believe it's the right work in that you're really seeing kids able to demonstrate their learning. Not just, did I mark the right bubble on the test, but do I truly have a deep understanding? That's what's going to prepare them for college and career.
And for the Sunnyside District, technology is a huge component of the learning that goes on, but this is more than pencil and paper. Kids are using computers to help identify why they came to those answers. Have you seen that?
We have in the elementary school a digital curriculum for our math, so we've been combining that with still the hands-on manipulatives and the thinking processes to have the kids explain their thinking and be able to model what it is that they're doing and use a variety of strategies. So it's really pulling in the big components of Common Core with our technology initiative and having the kids show their understanding.
Pam, would you agree that technology is a key component of moving these standards forward to the next level?
It's absolutely huge, and we've embraced that same method that we have in elementary all the way up through high school, now through 10th grade, where the content's digital. That's also a struggle because it's not purchasing textbooks, it's learning in a different way. It's learning kids how to create and build models on the computer, you know, how to type in their extended responses, how do they share that information and that learning. But it's not without those concrete experiences as well. But we all know, I mean, in the 21st century, how much technology is a part of our lives. And our kids are very comfortable in that realm. It's actually a bigger learning curve for many of our teachers than it is for our kids because it's just a natural part of the way they're learning. It enables them. If they don't understand the way the teacher explained it the first time, they have technology. They can go out and pull in a video, get a Khan Academy video, or find another way. Or we have high school students who will take pictures of the math problems, text it to a friend. They give their, you know, how they solved it, text it back. So it just opens up more opportunities for kids.
And you both would agree that this is a long time coming, though there will be changes to make in the future. You said earlier, Pam, this is tough, but it's necessary.
Yeah. I think this is the right work. It's really, we want to keep our kids globally competitive, and we have to raise the rigor. We have to change. The world has changed. The world we live in has changed. The walls that are been pushed out. So we have to really say, how do we give those experiences to our kids? How do we give them every opportunity they have that are beyond the scope of what we know or experienced as adults, and really push those boundaries? And the pressure, the push from Common Core, it really provides the motivation, I think, to make changes that have not occurred in 100 years in education.
The first measure will come later on, next semester, and then the first test will come in the spring of 2015. Maggie Hackett from Sunnyside and Pam Betten, thank you so much for your time, ladies. Thank you. So what are parents saying about the Arizona College and Career Ready standards? Are their children grasping the concept? Joining me in the studio are Eve Pedersen and Amy Bhola. And Amy also happens to be a former teacher. Ladies, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
So let's talk about what your children are saying about what we used to call the Common Core standards, but now the Arizona's College and Career Ready standards. Amy, why don't you start off and tell us what your son and daughter, do they notice a difference?
So my son and daughter are 9 and 12, and I don't think they really, if I asked what the Common Core was, they probably wouldn't be able to tell us. And I think that our district has been implementing it over several years, so there haven't been any sudden changes in how they're learning. I think the biggest difference right now, though, is really looking at having to explain their learning. And that's, if you ask them, I think they would notice that over the past few years. They're spending a lot more time explaining how they got to an answer and really showing proof and evidence for whatever position or whatever answer they get.
And Eve, you have a middle schooler in TUSD, and you as a parent notice there's a change in the rigor when it comes to the curriculum when it's time for homework.
Much, yes, more so, I think, than we were expecting. So the math homework especially is where I notice it, because you have to show your work, as Amy mentioned. And so if you have a fair number of math questions and you have to show on each single question exactly how you arrived at your answer, it takes quite some time. And I find too that they're introducing concepts much earlier than I remember these concepts being introduced when we were in school. And I find that confusing as a parent trying to help my son, because it doesn't make any sense to me when he's in pre-algebra why now geometry is being brought in at this stage, and trying to explain to him, geometric concepts when, we're really supposed to be at pre-algebra. So they definitely are shifting and changing what is required to be taught when. And I think for parents who are helping their kids with homework, I'm on the internet a lot trying to refresh my memory and then trying to sort of learn the way that they're now teaching, which is very different.
The goal is to make children deeper thinkers, more analytical. Do you believe that you see that in your children's day-to-day activities? Is this challenging them outside of school as well?
That's a good question. I do think that thinking about your learning is a good thing. I don't think that I have a problem with that. It's harder to teach, and it's harder, as you said, for parents to pick up on that. I had a parent that I know who was laughing about how she didn't understand multiplication anymore. And I said to her, I'm a former math teacher, by the way, and I said to her, well, 4 times 3 is always going to be 12. But what she didn't understand was the lattice that they were trying to explain how they were getting to their answer on. And that is, when we went to school, we learned a lot of rote memory. And there's something to be said for knowing your math facts, but there's also something to be something to be said for understanding multiplication, because then you can apply it to other things and apply it across the board and in other life situations. So I do think that part of it is going to be good for our children in the long run.
Both you ladies, very active parents in your children's education. This is somewhat controversial in that there are people who believe that this might be imposing certain mindsets on children in the program. Do you feel that way, Eve? Is that what you've seen?
No, I think what's happening, because the Common Core was not very well explained to Americans, and to the public, people have a lot of misconceptions about what it really is. I don't think there's something nefarious going on here. It's not some sort of plot, for mind control over our kids. What I'm concerned about is that, to me, it seems one more in a long line of corporate reforms. This really wasn't developed by educators, and I would have liked to have seen a lot more input in the development of the Common Core, from K through 12 educators, and also in the rollout. It's been very, very top down, and that concerns me. It also concerns me that it feeds now again into this A through F ranking system, which, now if schools are not going to test well on yet another high stakes test, we are imposing yet another requirement. And in Arizona especially, this comes at a time when we've cut more in state funding for education probably than any other time in our state's history. There was a $3 billion loss of funds, about a 20% cut. So you're requiring all these new standards and requirements. State of Arizona still doesn't know how it's going to pay for this new assessment, which is about $9 million more a year. And schools never received the funding that they needed for new textbooks, for all the teacher training that had to occur. It's also an online assessment. Many of our schools are very behind in technology. So those are just the very practical concerns I have about the rollout.
It is a costly program. How are you feeling about your teachers being up to par with what they're expected to be teaching?
I think our teachers are doing in our district's doing a fantastic job of getting the teachers where they need to be, but it is another large burden on our teachers. And as Eve said, they didn't have a lot to say in it. They didn't have a lot in the development. I would say that any of our teachers want to teach critical thinking skills. They want to integrate their learning because that's what we're taught to do as educators. But to throw one more thing at them and another burden on them, and as Eve said, without the funding and with a lot of additional training, I think it's a burden, and it's going to take a while to see results, and that's where concern comes in with the testing and the implementation.
Well, in the places where there have been early rollouts, like in New York State, the scores there dropped by 30%. And some people say, well, that just proves that kids aren't as smart as people thought they were, as their parents thought they were. And I don't think that's what it proves at all. I think it proves that maybe the rollout of this has not been as smooth as it could have been or should have been. And I don't want to see our kids blamed for that. I don't want to see our teachers blamed for that. If this is used as yet another reason to show that somehow our schools are failing, then I think Common Core will be a big failure.
And it will take years before we see the final results to come. Ladies, thank you so much for joining us. Annie Pedersen, a TOSD mom, Amy Bhola, a Catalina Foothills mom. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
You've heard how parents are adapting to the standards. The shift also requiring universities to change their curriculum. Arizona's college and career ready standards playing a significant role in the education of future teachers. Dean Ronald Marx from the University of Arizona College of Ed talking about the Common Core. What does that mean for future students, for teachers in Arizona?
For K-12 students, of course, it means going more in depth in areas in the English language arts and in mathematics, which are the two areas, and not as much breadth of coverage and more depth of coverage, with the goal of developing deeper understanding and more facile ability to use what they're learning in school beyond school. So that's a lofty goal, and it's a laudable goal. So obviously in teacher education, we have to prepare teachers to achieve those kinds of objectives with the students in schools. So we've been adjusting our curriculum and our program to make sure that happens.
And describe some of the techniques of this new method of teaching.
Well, in the English language arts standards, there are two sort of broad bodies of literature that people read. There's fiction, poetry and fiction, and then there's reading for content. If you will, in science and social studies and history, reading the newspaper, reading magazines that are nonfiction magazines. And those areas, the nonfiction, the expository part of it, is being expanded in the English language arts standards. And that's important because it more closely relates the literacy elements of the school curriculum to the areas where you're learning. History, social studies, economics, science, mathematics. And so the teaching of literacy in the English language arts standards will be more focused than in the past on those expository texts.
Dean Marx, that's not to say that you weren't teaching those things before.
No. It just makes it more explicit in the standards than it has been in the past. And literature and poetry is important. We want all of our students to love to read and to read fiction and poetry, but we also need them to learn how to read for academic purposes, for more specific, getting content out of the reading.
Dean Marx, has there been resistance to the Arizona College and Career Ready standards?
Yes, there has been, and they really come from two areas. One, actually, I think is misguided because the Common Core were developed by joint work of the National Governors Association and the Council of Chief State School Officers. That's the Governor's Association, everyone knows. The Council of Chief State School Officers are all of the state authorities who are responsible for education. In our case, that's John Huppenthal. And they are the ones who developed the Common Core. It was not a federal initiative. It was really an initiative that came from the states. But because it's in reaction to worldwide changes in education, some people believe that this is some kind of worldwide effort that is imposing standards on America. That is simply not true, nor is it a federal initiative. The federal government, the Obama government, has been supporting the Common Core, but they are not the origin of the Common Core. So I think that criticism is misguided. There's a deeper criticism, a more philosophical criticism among some people, that having standards like this at any rate are restrict what people learn in school. There's some validity to the general question about that. When you're narrowing things down, then kids have less experience, broad experience. On the other hand, we spend hundreds of billions of dollars a year in public education and private K-12 education in our country every year. It's a mammoth investment, and I think that some accountability for the outcomes is reasonable to expect in a government like ours. So the standards have been around for 20 years. It started in the early 90s.
It's been researched and reported that up to 40% of children who graduate from schools in Arizona are not meeting the standards that they need to be ready for college or a career. Talk a little bit about how that concerns you and how this method might improve those numbers.
Of course, that number varies depending on who you are. We do a better job with more advantaged kids in our schools than we do with kids who come from more trying background, people who come from poverty. And poverty in our state, like in many states, is more focused on, is more concentrated in minority groups. And so we get this achievement gap, and we have one in our state, and we must get rid of it. The state's in dire situation if we don't get rid of it, because right now, close to 60% of all the students in K-12 education in this state are minority groups, are from minority groups. So we have to really change that. It'll take about a generation of students for that to happen. The Common Core has been rolling out, and typically the way they roll it out, you start in kindergarten, first grade, and then you move along with the kids. So that'll take a generation of kids, 13 years of kids. So we really won't expect a major impact of the Common Core for another 10 years. And one would hope that one of the things that we do in this country is we reform again and again and again.
That's our program for this Friday, December 13th. Join us next week as we take a look at the impact shoppers from Mexico have on the Arizona economy during the holiday season. From all of us here at Arizona Week, I'm Lorraine Rivera.